Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So for those of you that are regular viewers of the channel, you'll know that the content sometimes involves carburetor issues on various project bikes. So recently my wife and I were out on the xj900s Virago, and we were about 70 or 80 miles from home when we had a sudden loss of power. We're probably running at sort of 50% power on the throttle. And initially my suspicions were that for some reason, maybe a faulty plug or whatever, I was running on one cylinder. So we stopped at a McDonald's restaurant and we got a cup of tea, and I got myself a hot chocolate. It's quite cold at this time of year here. And I decided I'd go out, I would take the plugs out, check against the casing, see if we're getting a spark. And what I did was I ran the bike on the rear cylinder. I then ran the bike on the front cylinder separately just to check that both cylinders were indeed working. Excuse me. Whilst doing so, I thought I'll check the fuel tap, maybe just running low on fuel. I put it on to prime. I had a bit of a leak on the tap. So it turns out that it's just drawing air through the actual tap. So we'll get a new tap fitted to that at some point. However, it's got me thinking. And I'm going to switch bikes here. I'm going on to my xj900. Excuse me. xj900 diversion. Last time we had that out, we did feel like there was a bit of carburetor issue. So since we've got one of these ultrasonic tanks for doing the GS850, I thought we'll practice with the xj900. And we'll get the carbs out and give it a decent clean. So since I got the Virago 750, the 900 XJ has not been getting used so much. So don't mind taking bits off it and giving it a wee bit of a tidy up. So today we're going to head into the garage. I'm up here now, and I'll just basically take the carbs off of the 900. So stick with me and I'll show you how to remove the carburetors. So what I've discovered is, the way I've put the bikes in here, the 900's on its side stand, which I'm not going to work on it like that. So before I begin, I'm going to take the Virago out, straighten up this bike, and then pull the Virago back in, and then at least I'm working on a bike that's not leaning over on its side stand. So a bit of jiggery pokery to do, and then I'll get started. It's a big heavy bike this. It's sometimes a struggle getting it on the centre stand, I'm not going to lie. But there we are, not too bad today. I think when you're parking somewhere, even if there's a little uneven ground or like a little bit of an incline or whatever, sometimes it does feel a bit heavy just popping it up there. So I am just going to start off with obviously the basics. I need to get the seat out of the way for a start. I always feel it's sometimes good practice, you know, the wee, there's a wee bracket that kind of just catches on there, there's a wee hook. It's sometimes good just to give that when you take the seat off. Just give it a wee spray with this WD-40. Just keeps the mechanism moving, doesn't seize up. So it's fairly simple to get this tank out of the way. Got webs and everything growing here. There is a bolt at the front of the tank, a bolt at the bottom. We've got an electrical connector on this side. It's a wee green one, I think 3 wires going into it. Then you've got the fuel tap, fuel hose, it just lifts right out. So the mounting bolt at the back of the tank, it's a 10mm. I won't tell you what's at the front because I've not used the standard mounting bolt. I've got an Allen key head on mine. that dates back from when we did this full restoration on this bike. But certainly the one on the back is standard, so it's a 10mm. There is a wee rubber mounting section as well. And what I'll do is I'll bring that over to the camera just to let you see what it looks like. So it's quite dark in here, I do get that, but there we've got the little bit, it just sits over the top. There's a metal plate inside the rubber, and then the bolt goes through there. And then on the underside of the tank, you've got another rubber one, and it just stops the vibrations, if you like. So to undo the gubbins, you're better round at the throttle side of the bike, and you just lift this side of the tank up, just like that. It just gives you enough insight into what you're doing. And then you've got, I'm going to bring the camera around just to let you see this. Right guys, so that's the tap in here. As you can see, wait a minute, my camera works not the best. There's the tap in there, and that's it in its off position. So it's up and down when it's on. I've already turned it off. So that's the hose there that you just need to remove, just at the background there. It's just a wee sort of metal clip. The hose should just slide off easily. And then the electrical connector that I was telling you about, it's this green one here. And that's all you need to basically undo. And then you can lift the tank free of the bike. So unfortunately I can't hold the camera in the right position. I'm here on my own today to show you me doing this. So I'll leave you at this angle and see how we'll get on. But I'll start with the wee green clip. And that comes off quite freely because I've probably done it so many times. It's a wee bit trickier to get the fuel hose off. So just lift this up. And you just give it a wee sort of twist round back and forward. And that's that removed. So now guys, I will be able to just lift this free. There's a bit of weight to it. I think I've got quite a full tank of fuel here. What I am going to do is try and make a sort of softer platform with an old boiler suit for it to sit on. And whatever you do at this point, make sure that the tank's not tipped over or whatever, because for those of you that know, when I was doing the Bandit 1200 project bike, I did get into a bit of a state with fuel coming out of the filler hole, and it basically stripped all the lacquer off the tank. It was a complete headache at the time. I certainly don't want that to happen to this bike, and if any of you are taking your tank off and sort of putting it to the side, just make sure there's not going to be any fuel leakage, because it will damage the finish to the paintwork. So as you can see guys, you can now see the float bowls along the bottom there, the carburetors. The next thing really that we need to get moved is this big plastic box, and that is your air filter housing. So fairly simple, this one. It's just 4 like Jubilee type clips, and then at the front, just like you've got with the petrol tank, you've got like a front mounting bolt there, and that should just lift off. Right, that's everything loose, so this it does actually just lift off. So underneath here on the carbs, there's like sort of rubber intake, so you just have to kind of feed it off of them, just like that, and then you can lift that out of the way there. So there's a lot of funkiness going on in here. I'm not sure if it's going to show up on the camera, but the fuel line there, let's see, the fuel line looks a bit like, I can only just say that's looks a bit mouldy, to be honest. So a few little bits and pieces in here going to need a little bit of a clean, huh? But the first thing I have to take off is that fuel line, and then I'll have to undo the cables for the choke, and obviously there's an open and close cable for the throttle. So they'll come off first, and fairly simple just to feed them through. So we'll get them away, and then it's just basically like these 4 sort of Jubilee clips that we're holding on the air filter. You've also got them on the inlets into the engine. So we'll get the 4 of them undone, and it's basically from there it's just a case of sort of undoing the electrical connections and then rocking the carbs out of place. Right, what I will say to you is, it is beneficial to have one of these bad boys, the long reach screwdriver. It looks a bit overkill, but it just helps you get into the screws at the back here. Also, I'm working in a dark lockup, and I know on camera it kind of looks okay, but the actual reality of it is that I can't see shit. But we'll get there, guys. I've done this so many times, I don't think I really need to see this. Right, all the cables are kind of undone at the top. So where they go round on, there's kind of like a wheel that the cable slits in. So we've got the carbs, we'll get them loose. We need to undo the fuel line that just goes to the pump, and then undo the cables from the actual mechanism that they sit in. And then that's the carb actually ready to come away. So that's the first cable out there. The other cable's a wee bit trickier to get into. So sometimes you just need to give a wee tug to it. That will turn around the mechanism for the carb. I'd love to show you all this on the camera, but I've just not got enough hands, guys. But if you come round to doing it yourself, you'll see exactly what I mean. You just need to make access so that you can slide the drum section of the cable out of its housing, and then basically just tuck them away. When you're putting it back together, make sure you put them on the right order, or you're going to be opening your throttle the wrong way around. So now I just need to undo this loom here, and that loom here runs around, just connects up to this part here that connects into the coils and everything. It's just another little electrical connector that you can just undo fairly simply, and that gives you access then into that clip there, and it's too tight to do with my fingers on the fuel line, so I'm just going to get a wee pair of snipe nose pliers and undo that. So I've just used these wee rusty things. It's just something that you can grip on and give it. Basically what you're doing is you're closing that up, and as you close it, it gives the inner section that holds the fuel hose, it gives it a larger diameter, and then you can just slide it down so that it's not clamping onto the plastic section of the carburettor. Now what I will say here is I've broken one of these in the past, so sometimes getting the fuel hose off the carb, the hose can go quite like sort of hard and brittle, and it just seems to grip on there with too much force. So just tease it ever so slightly. Don't try and force it, because you can crack that plastic section, and then you're entering into a whole host of problems again. So I'm going to get a wee flathead screwdriver, tease the upper edge just to give it a little bit of action to sort of release its grip. And that's you guys. That's basically it. That's how you remove the carburetors. So as you can see, there is a wee bit of wetness here that I shouldn't expect to see. Obviously the bowls and everything are quite full. I've just done the stupid manoeuvre there where I've started to empty them out over the bike, but there's a bit of moisture. I'll turn the camera. There is a bit of moisture at this end of the carburetor here, which I wouldn't expect to see. So obviously I'm going to take everything apart before we get them into the tank, and we'll strip them right down and basically ultrasonic clean them and get them as best we can. So it gives us a wee chance to look at the inlet rubbers there. This one we did change earlier on in the year. This one was leaking quite bad. There's a wee bit of degradation on this one as well. I do see, I don't know if it's going to show up, there is a crack in that one. Let me try and turn a light on here. There's a couple of cracks in this. So yeah, they could they could probably all do with being replaced. I thought this one we put on was actually quite good, but you can see damage to it there as well. I mean, it's probably not affecting it if it's clamping on good enough, but yeah, that one there is not the best at all. The crack's all the way down there. These two at this side, they do look a lot better. But that kind of lines up with the moisture that we've got on the carburetors. It kind of ties in with that side. So I think it's going to have to be one of these ones where we'll bite the bullet and we actually just buy actual good ones from Yamaha itself, because I wondered why there was so much sort of dirt on the rocker cover earlier this year, and it's obviously it's worse on this side, but that seems to be the spray side. So I know these are not very cheap, they're quite expensive parts, but yeah, a set of inlet rubbers are definitely on the cards, guys. So one thing that I will point out, obviously you don't want anything going down here into the engine, so you get yourself some clean cloths, and when you're leaving your bike unattended like this with the carburetors removed, just make sure you block everything up there, because the last thing you want to happen is something to find its way down into the boards there. So yeah, it's just common sense really, guys. So yeah, we've got some cloths here. It's just going to cover these holes, make it nice and safe, and then that's the way we'll kind of leave it. Right guys, I'm not going to lie, it's been absolutely freezing doing this. My hands are normally cold, but at least that's the carbs off, and we'll be able to get the carbs all cleaned up. I'm thinking now, after my investigations there while we remove the carbs, definitely a set of inlet rubbers as you saw, but we'll give the carbs a good clean. I don't know whether we'll change jets and stuff in there as well. We're on 32,000 miles I think, still standard setup. But we'll discuss that, me and my dad, when we take the carbs apart. Might be worth just putting it all back, brand new parts in there, and then we'll see how it goes in the spring. But for now, I would like to thank you all for watching. Please hit the like and subscribe just to help my channel grow, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.